Welcome back to Ancient Egypt Unveiled, where we dig deeper than the tombs and uncover the truth that history tried to bury. Tonight, we invite you down a path less golden, less celebrated, and far more terrifying. This is not the story of the pyramids or the gods. This is the story of pain, control, and the darkest corners of the Pharaoh's kingdom. You've heard of the glories of ancient Egypt. But what about the screams no one heard? Let's step inside the forbidden. The torture chambers of ancient Egypt. Act 1, Beneath the Golden Throne. Ancient Egypt thrived on order, balance, and divine law, or so the priests would tell you. But behind the throne of every powerful pharaoh was a shadowy system designed to break dissent. Pharaohs were gods on earth. Their word was law. And anyone who questioned that law was swiftly silenced, not always with death, but with suffering first. You see, temples weren't just places of worship. They were centers of surveillance. High priests often acted as spies, reporting whispers of rebellion. And once accused, you were taken, somewhere few returned from. Beneath royal courts, military barracks, and temple complexes were hidden chambers, soundproofed by thick limestone, concealed behind sacred walls. There, justice was administered. Not with fairness, but with fear. Act 2, The Chamber Tools, Instruments of Agony. Let's talk about the tools of this terror. And beware, these were not just symbolic. The reed whip. Soaked in salt water and lashed until skin peeled in strips. Used on slaves and commoners alike. The bastinado. Tied down victims had the soles of their feet beaten until they couldn't walk, used to make confession easier, or escape impossible. The iron collar. A tight-fitting metal ring clamped around the neck, with spikes on the inside. Worn for hours, sometimes days. Fire stones. Hot stones placed on the back while the victim lay on their belly, slowly cooking flesh while priests chanted for the truth to be revealed. Mouth clamps. Bronze devices to force mouths open or shut, used on those who refused to name co-conspirators. And then, there were psychological tactics. Blindfolds for days. Deprivation of light. Whispers in the dark. Priests chanting verses backwards to confuse and terrify. All of this was considered sacred justice. Act 3, Who suffered? And why? Contrary to popular belief, it wasn't just criminals or war captives. These chambers saw royal concubines, servants, scribes, military generals, even noble family members. A servant who accidentally overheard a political conversation. Tortured. A concubine accused of betrayal. Tortured before burial. A priest who defied royal theology. Public execution after days of agony. And don't forget the workers who built the tombs. If they spoke of what they saw inside, or attempted to steal a trinket, they vanished. Act 4, Real Case Files from the Sand. Let's take a look at one of the most chilling cases in Egyptian history. The harem conspiracy of Ramses III. A royal wife, Tai, plotted with palace officials to assassinate the pharaoh and place her son on the throne. When the plot was uncovered, dozens were dragged into underground chambers, tortured for weeks. How do we know? Ancient papyri tell us about their confessions under examination. One priest had his tongue cut out before being burned alive. Another conspirator was found hanged by his own hand, a poetic phrase for forced suicide under torture. Some were buried alive. Others were never buried at all. Their names? Stripped from history. Their bodies? Never found. Act 5, The Afterlife. Denied. In ancient Egypt, the worst punishment was not death. It was being forgotten. Torture wasn't just a physical punishment, it was a spiritual curse. Those who were unworthy or traitorous were denied proper burial rituals. No canopic jars. No prayers. No preserved organs. And in Egyptian belief, this meant their soul would never reach the afterlife. It would wander. Suffer. Fade. This was perhaps the greatest cruelty of all. Eternal torture beyond death. Act 6, were the pharaohs justified? Some historians argue that these brutal methods kept the empire stable. A land this vast, with enemies within and without, needed harsh control. But at what cost? Was this divine justice, or just tyranny? The same pharaohs who built golden tombs, who praised Ma'at and Isis, also signed off on unspeakable horrors. And many did it, smiling. So now, when you look at the pyramids, when you see the mask of Tutankhamun, when you hear of gods and glory, remember what lies beneath. The screams that echoed in stone. The blood that stained the sands before it faded with time. This was not just a land of gods. It was also a kingdom of fear. This was the truth they never told you. This was the world inside the torture chambers of ancient Egypt. If this episode gripped your soul, don't forget to watch our next dark dive. The Curse of Anubis, Guardian of the Dead, it's waiting for you just below. Hit subscribe, leave your thoughts, and let's keep peeling back the shadows of history. Only on Ancient Egypt Unveiled.